Hello and welcome to this presentation of Decision Facilitation, a guide to lead yourself to a conscious decision. My name is Tony E. Clausen and I have the company's People Reader and Sales Pilots. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a quick guide into how to consciously take decisions. So it's like a decision facilitation tool. It's free of charge and it's made just for you. I am assuming you are in the process of taking a decision. If you're not, I recommend that you actually think about something you want to take a decision about in order for you to really evaluate the tool. Now, the thing about decisions is that we actually should look at decisions as taking a decision. If I'm really good at that, that's when I achieve the results that the decision was designed to achieve. Now, this is pretty banal, but as most decisions we take through a day, it's a subconscious decision. It's a decision we take from a automatic point of view. Basically, we don't always look at if our results will lead us, if our decisions will lead us to the results that we desire. One can say this about a lot of things in business as well as in your private life. Like if you want to lose weight, you're taking a decision to lose weight, but have you actually transformed that into an action that will lead you to lose weight? Most of the time we haven't, we just dream about it. So this tool is made for you to better facilitate yourself or others through the decision-making process in order to end up with a decision. Now, it's a very complex thing, so I've simplified it, and I'm going to introduce you to two main obstacles in the subconscious part of taking decisions. The first one we call status quo bias. Now, status quo bias is when you prefer a choice that maintains the current situation, or you prefer to repeat choices you've taken before. And status quo bias is such a forceful thing if you're unaware of it, that it actually makes you prefer to take decision that doesn't lead you to the results that you want to. And the only reason you want to do that decision one more time is because you've taken that decision before. One could say that the definition of insanity is to desire new results but continue to do what you've done always. And this may come as a surprise to you, but a lot of the decisions you take doesn't lead you to the absolute result you want to achieve with the results. You actually take a lot of decisions that only put you halfway or a part of the way, and you actually live with that. So status quo bias is the tendency we have when we are unaware of it to prefer something that we know just because we know it. It's like better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, although you actually don't know if what you identified as the other devil is a devil or an angel. So that's status quo bias. So be aware of that you'll have a tendency to take decisions you've taken before. You'll have a tendency to prefer something just because you know it. Secondly, we have loss aversion. Now I've chosen status quo bias and loss aversion as the two subconscious things you need to be aware of when you take decisions. But these are only two of several, so it's a very complex process to take decisions. But I've chosen these two because when you are aware of these two, you basically take better decisions. Loss aversion is the fact that loss and gain is perceived and experienced very differently. So a loss is actually experienced 1.5 to 4 times more painful than a gain. Now this is counterintuitive because intuitively we would think that a gain and a loss would be the same. If I lose something, I will actually feel it as painful as I will feel it joyful to win something. But this is not the case, because what we've discovered is that you hate to lose much more than you love to win. You experience a greater pain by losing 1,000 than you experience happiness by getting 1,000. Now, the reason loss aversion is so important to focus on is that if you are unaware of it, you will have a tendency more to avoid a loss than actually to gain a win. And it's very, very complex, because if you just relax for a minute or for a second, you have a tendency to actually avoid loss and thereby go for a more conservative thing than you have to gain something. Unless you are challenged by two bad choices, then we've discovered that you actually become much more risk willing and you take bigger risks. But for now, just remember this. To decide something is actually to choose, and to choose is a deselection, which means if you choose something, there's something you won't choose. And when you have a deselection, you feel a loss, and the feeling of loss is equal to pain. And we avoid pain subconsciously and consciously. Now, we subconsciously try to avoid a loss and thereby also to avoid a pain. So when you are conscious, you can actually take decisions much better. So be aware and be conscious about the status quo bias and the loss evasion. And this is where the actual guide begins. And now I'll give you the guiding tools on how to go through your decision. And the first thing we need to remember when we are going to take a decision is to go slow. And the reason we should go slow is that if we take a quick decision, we are prone to take an intuitive decision. And if this is a new area, something you have very little experience in, you are unfortunately falling in the mental pitfall of thinking that you know something that you don't know. So if you have very little experience in it, the intuitive decision will often be a wrong decision because it's based on a wrong assumption because you don't have a lot of experience with it. So go slow and then go through and use this method that I'm showing you right now. Use that in your decision facilitation method. The first thing we need to understand before we take any decision, and this sounds like a banal question, is do I want to take action? Do I want to do something? Now, there are three main motivations for doing something. Either I want to do something to maintain what I have, which is status quo. I want to do something to get a strong improvement, not a small improvement. We do very little in life to do small improvements. We do strong improvements, and we take that disturbance that a new decision or a new method is. Or do I want to remove a problem? Now, once you've decided that, you go into this consideration. And now you know that when you are considering something, you have a tendency to look at loss more than you look at gain. And that's why you have to be conscious and aware about loss evasion and conscious and aware about status quo. Now, and here it comes. When you go out of the consideration phase, you either take a clear no, and that's a decision. So a no, I don't want to take action is a decision. And thereby the decision facilitation is over. It's gone. It's done. We can go on and do something else. We don't have to take a decision. We already took one. No, we're not going to take action. If you say yes, the next question you ask yourself is, do I have the budget, the time, and the resources? Now, obviously, there are many, many more parameters than these, but these are the typical ones. Do I have the money for it? Do I have the time for it? Do I have the resources? Resources could be staff. It could be space. It could be whatever. You know that better than I do. Now, when you ask yourself this question, you go into the consideration phase again. And it's very important that you understand that the consideration phase has to end up with a clear yes or a clear no. If you end up with a maybe, you need to understand that you are kidding yourself, because maybes most of the time, like 75 to 90% of the time, a maybe is in real life, it's a no. It's a postponement, and most of the things we postpone will never materialize, or we have to restart the whole process again. So you can never get out of the consideration phase with a maybe. You have to come out with a no, which is the decision, and then we stop, or a yes. Now, in this case, if you say, yes, I do have the resources, I do have the time, I do have the budget, I do have these things that I need to do, I need to have in order for me to actually follow through on decisions, because you see, a decision is only worth something if you follow through on it, and the decision is transformed into action. And if you say yes, you have to describe minimum three concrete results. Now, this is really hard, because now you just can't say, I want to be better at. You need to say, what is better? You need to describe concrete, what is the three results that I want to get out of this? Minimum three, maximum five results. This is also where you're going to realize that you're maybe having a small budget, but you're actually looking for a huge result, which is very logical. I mean, the investment you do in something is always proportional to the results that you get out of it. So if you invest a dime, you're not going to get $200,000 out of that dime. That does happen, but it's it's as rare as being hit by lightning, actually rarer than that. So in the consideration phase, you need to say, can I actually describe 3 to 5 specific concrete results? Yes or no? If it's a no, again, we're over. It's over. The decision has been taken. A no is a decision. I'm not going to do anything. If it's a yes, now we're faced with who, what, and how should it be done. Now we need to describe who could do it, and what should be done, and how should it be done. And this is when we become very concrete. Now, I'm not saying you should actually define exactly the concrete name of the supplier, of the person that's going to do it, but you need to describe in the consideration phase who would be able to do this, what would be able to be done, and how should it be done. Again, in the consideration phase, you'd be looking at trying to avoid a loss more than you wanted to look at a gain. So if you're conscious about this, then it's so much easier. You know about status quo, you know about loss aversion, so you can end up saying yes or no. In this case, no, I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know how it should be done. Or you actually describe how the solution should be, what the decision should be, and then the decision is yes. Now, imagine this whole process. You need to go slow, and you need to imagine that your brain will have a tendency to try to go quick and go to a quick fix, go to a quick decision, an intuitive decision, because this is demanding on your brain. And your brain is designed to save energy. So if it can get away with not thinking, your brain is going to do that unless you're aware and conscious. All right, this was decision facilitation. And here are the questions that you're asking yourself. What is the reason and why? What is a budget, your time, your resources? Which result do you want? At least 3. What should be done? Who should do it? And how should it be done? All right. And remember, a maybe is a no. You're just kidding yourself if you're telling yourself, nah, it might not be. It's very rarely a yes. It's most of the time a no. And the third thing I want to introduce to you today is that we need to end up where we know that we will only decide when we experience 4 things. So 4 things needs to be in place mentally in order for us to decide something. We need to feel or experience that we have an overview, we have a grasp of it. We need to feel or experience we've taken a decision, which is what this is all about. Then we need to have acceptance from the stakeholders. Everybody who has some kind of direct or indirect influence on us and on the decision. And then we have to make sure that the resources are present. If these 4 things are not there, you're not going to take a decision. You're going to stick with status quo in most of the cases. One exception is if you're only faced with bad choices. When you're only faced with bad choices, that's a critical decision making, and there we take this is taken out of effect in that case. If it's really that you're only faced with bad choices, you will most likely take huge risks. That's what we normally see in decision taking when we are faced with bad choices. All right, this is the overview. You can download this as a PDF. You can use this in your life. You can use decision facilitation for you to take and lead yourself to a conscious decision from many choices to one choice. I hope you can use it in your life and in your decision taking, and you're more than welcome to share this with anybody you like. Take good care. Until next time.